Hey there! Today we're going to be talking about the wings of Enneagram 6, 6 with a 5 wing and 6 with a 7 wing. Now, like when we talk about Enneagram 3 or Enneagram 9, we're looking at the middlemost type in its center. So today we're talking about the head center, the, if you will, thinking center. And 6 is that type that really falls in the middle of the 3. So that means that either of its wings are going to be what I'd call a double head type. So as we know with the core type 6, a 6's main motivation is seeking security. And we see this with all three of the head types, but really with a slightly different motivation and a slightly different flavor. So when a 6 seeks security, it is really has to do a lot with authority. 6's are, more than any other type, very what I would just call aware of authority. I think sometimes people make the mistake of saying that 6's are either always afraid of authority or always enamored of authority. And neither of those is 100% true. Really, both of them are. And this expresses the dichotomy in 6. And that is why I choose the word aware of authority, because a 6 can both be very naive when it comes to someone who's earned their loyalty, somebody who is a leadership figure in their life, and really be blind to that person's faults, whether that's a person or an organization or a sports team. But on the other hand, 6's, because they're so aware of authority, can sometimes be the stick to the man type of person. And I know I've said this in other videos, but I always think the main example that comes to mind for me of this is that McCarthyist Red Scare sort of thing, when it comes to being hyper skeptical and hyper suspicious of authority. So 6's really err on both sides of that issue, depending on who the person is or who the organization is, and whether that person or entity has earned their loyalty. Now, when we look at the wing differences that we have for a 6, we do see some slightly different motivations or channels with which they seek security. I like to say a 6 with a 5 wing seeks security through the vehicle of knowledge, and a 6 with a 7 wing seeks security through the vehicle of variety or experience is another word that I might use. Now, really those two things are kind of on polar ends of the spectrum when it comes to introversion and extroversion for the most part. As I've said in many of my videos, I do not believe that that is a stereotypical thing when it comes to introversion and extroversion. I believe it's a spectrum. But we do see 6 with 5 wings far more often being more introverted people, and 6's with 7 wings far more often being extroverted people. I even am fortunate enough to have some really great friends in my life who are 6's of both varieties, and I see it over and over again. I have 2 friends in particular that are 6 with a 5 wing, and they are both introverted ladies. I have one friend, on the other hand, who is a 6 with a 7 wing, and she's one of the biggest extroverts I know. The same goes for my brother, who's also 6 with a 7 wing. Now, breaking that down a little bit more, 6 with a 5 wing seeking security through knowledge really looks like just adding those 2 components of a 6 and a 5 together. That is the simplest way I can explain to you what that wing component looks like. So it's taking the loyalty aspects of 6 and that fear motivation of 6 and that desire for an authority that can give them security, combined with 5, which seeks security through knowing everything. As I said in one of my previous videos, 5s tend to have this belief that if they know all of the things, then they can somehow be safe. And just like with the 6, we know that these beliefs that each type has in the Enneagram are not true beliefs. They're lies that we believe that cripple us. So we can see with that a 6 with a 5 wing is going to struggle really with action, with moving forward decisively, with not second guessing the 6 component of, wait, am I safe under a bigger authority? Or the 5 component of, wait, am I safe because I know everything? So 6 with 5 wing is a little more crippled in I would even say, physiologically large body movement and going out into the world and expressing action. 6 with a 7 hand, on the other hand, is actually kind of the opposite. So the athletic 6's that I know have a 7 wing. The more studious and analytical 6's that I know have the 5 wing. Now, I do know some really smart 6's with 7 wings. My brother's one of them. And with that 7 component, if they're in a healthy place, that 7 component is going to integrate to 5, and they're going to be able to focus and study something and be fascinated. but really those large body gifted areas of being an athlete or being agile, it's really, really come on more that 7 side of the equation. Even just from an interest perspective, from a mental perspective, the 6s of the 5 wings that I've known are mostly just not even super interested in large motor things because they are more stuck in that place of, I'm more comfortable in my head. 6 compounded by 5 is more of a comfortable in the inner world type, feels secure in the inner world. 6 with a 7 wing, on the other hand, is secure in the outer world. The 7 component brings to the table this desire to really not sit too long with something and to have variety, to go from one thing to the next and experience all sorts of different things. Now this gives that 7 component a sense of security because they don't like stagnation, they don't like boredom, and they don't like the potential of ever having to sit with pain or something that's dark. If you've ever talked to a 7, and I think this applies to 6 with a 7 wing as well, a 6 with a 7 wing that is in sort of an average health place is really going to be very bouncy, as I've described a 7 before, and want to go from one topic to the next. The struggle for 6 with a 7 wing is with stillness and sitting with something long enough to allow its potential to come to the surface. Now, for 7 wings, that tends to mean that, like I said, they're more comfortable in the large motor body thing. They're more comfortable out in the world and like being in social circles and being out and about. They are very active people. So that is, I think, one of the biggest experiential differences between the wings of 6. And really we touched on some of those motivational differences too. That difference between the pursuit of knowledge in order to find security and thinking, if I just have a larger authority and know everything, then I can be safe, 6 with a 5 wing. Or if I have a larger authority that approves of me and I can have variety and not have to sit still with anything for too long, then I can be safe. So that's really the differences between the 5 wing and the 7 wing. Hey, also make sure to tune in next time. I'm starting a brand new video series touching on my favorite subject, which if you've tuned in for very long, you've probably realized is misidentification and accurately making sure we are in the right type. Now this new video series is going to be focused more on types that people predominantly misassign to themselves for whatever reason, and we are going to identify what those reasons are. So many people tend to subscribe to these types or see themselves in them really without visiting any of the other types. We're going to be talking even a little bit just about the dynamics of misidentification and why it's so important that if we are committed to learning and to growing and to self-awareness, why it is of such importance that we are correctly identified and that we are really identifying what our real sin patterns are. And I'll even tell you right out, those types being Enneagram 4, Enneagram 8, Enneagram 5, and sometimes Enneagram 7. So those are the 4 types I'm going to be touching on, and I am calling this series Reasons You Might Not Be in Blank. So tune in for that next time, starting with Enneagram 8.